guys, Jody here, and welcome back to my channel. So this has nothing to do with today's video, just more of an explanation for why I might seem a little bit sad and depressed. I'm usually always those things, but I'm a little extra sad and extra depressed today. Tony Award nominations came out last Tuesday. Definitely plan on doing a video in the future before the Tony Awards on my thoughts on this year's nominations, even though I haven't seen any shows, so I really don't have an opinion in a way, but you know I do still, because I love theater. But I guess there was that hope, that possibility that maybe before the Tony Awards this year I might actually get to see a show. And yeah, it feels as though that hope, that possibility crashed and burned. So yeah, that's where that extra sadness comes into today's video, if it does. So I'll try not to be too depressing in this video as far as my mood, but yeah, a little bit bummed out. If you watch my theater video on why theater isn't so important to me, why I haven't seen anything in over 3.5 years, you'll know why I'm extra sad when it comes to theater stuff now. But anyway, moving on to what today's video is actually about. Just wanted to explain why I might be a little bit melancholy in today's video. Yeah, today's video is going to be about my May TBR and what book I ended up choosing out of my May TBR. So without any further ado, let's get on to today's video. So I recently finished reading in April, at the end of April I should say, The Housemaid. Definitely plan on doing a full review of that book on my channel, hopefully by next week. I like to write my reviews on my blog before I do any book reviews on my channel, because I like to have an idea of what I'm going to say. I tend to ramble, as you can tell, if I don't know what I'm going to say. So that's why I haven't done that review yet, even though I finished it in April and we're in May, you know, whatever. But dare to say, I think I got in a bit of a reading slump after I read that, because I finished that, I believe, the last Friday of April, and I haven't really gotten into reading anything since then. And then right now it's like the second week of May. Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about right now, but yeah, I think I found myself in a bit of a reading slump. I really enjoyed that book. It was very good. But yeah, I am a mood reader, so when it comes to reading, it takes me a minute to decide what I want to read next. And usually once I pick up a book and I read a sentence or a few pages or a chapter, I'm done. That is what I will be reading until I finish that book. I'm not one of those people that reads a bunch of books at the same time. I stick with the book, I finish the book, I move on. That's how I read books. So initially I was thinking maybe I would read Book Lovers next. So Book Lovers by Emily Henry, a very well-known popular book. And with Emily Henry's new book coming out, Happy Place, recently, I thought, you know, what better time to finally pick up an Emily Henry book? It's spring, or almost spring officially, and you know, what better time now? Now. Anyway, so I picked it up. I read the first chapter, and I really liked it. I totally understand why everyone loves Emily Henry's writing. It's very captivating. It reels you in, and the characters are, I can already tell, are very it's a very character driven story, I can already tell, and I really did like the writing. The only thing that I think was throwing me off was the main character, who I believe, I'm going to look at the back of the book just to double check, but I believe her name is Nora, and I am right. Yeah, Nora seems like a great character, although for me at the moment, you know, it's only been the first chapter, so, you know, things could change, people change over time, from chapter to chapter, but as far as the first chapter was going, she is a very character-driven based person. She loves her career, and she seems like she's very busy. She is working all the time and doesn't have a lot of time for her personal life or to take a break for herself. She's always working, and it was just becoming like very fast paced in that sense for me, and I'm just like, I don't know if I want to read a character like that right now. So not bad at all, very good, but just not in the mood for it at the moment. So I found myself the next day feeling, I'm not feeling this at the moment. Let me pick up something else to read. And the other book, the next book I picked up to read, was a very highly talked about mystery thriller, and that is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Feeney. And I have heard nothing but great things about this book. Twists, turns, so amazing. Everybody seems to love this book. And I, like I said, just read The Housemaid. So usually for me, I tend to like to want to read, if like I read a mystery thriller, I usually don't want to read a mystery thriller next because, you know, you unintentionally compare the two in a way sometimes. And I'd rather just read a different genre. So that's why I initially picked up something like Book Lovers, because it's very different than The Housemaid. But I found myself thinking to myself, in a way, I was kind of up for reading another mystery thriller. Like, because when I read The Housemaid, there were so many twists and turns, and it was very exciting. It was like, oh my gosh, didn't see that coming. Wow, whoa, you know, stuff like that. And I have a feeling from what I've heard people talk about on BookTube about this book, that this is one of those books where a lot of twists, turns, and, you know, like, oh my gosh, did that just happen kind of reactions. And I'm kind of in the mood for that. I was kind of in the mood for that when I picked this up to read. So I read the first chapter, and once again, really liked it. Very enticing, very intriguing premise for the first chapter. And the first chapter kind of left off on a bit of a cliffhanger, even though it was only the first chapter. But I found myself feeling like, yeah, definitely want to read this next, whatever. And then it happened again. The next day, I'm like, I don't know if I want to read this right now. It's good. I don't know if it's for right now. So I found myself, sometimes when I'm in like a depressive state of mood, I kind of like watching depressing stories, like on television, or reading books that deal with life and existentialism, kind of stories like that. So I picked up a book recently at Barnes & Noble not too long ago, and it was a book I had seen several times at the store. I read the back, the synopsis, and to me, I was like, I misinterpreted, I think, what the synopsis of the story was about, because I later heard they had a segment on the Today Show where they talked about this new books, and this was one of the books mentioned. And once I heard someone talk about it, it sounded like a book perfect for me about life and had an existential like story. And yeah, so that book, you're like, well, what book are you talking about, Jody? I'm like, let me tell you now. That book is called Sea Change by Gina Chung, and I believe this is the debut novel by a new author. And yeah, once I had more of an understanding of what this book was about, I was like, this is definitely for me. And I read the first chapter, and once again, loved it, loved everything about it. But the next day, I found myself feeling like, I don't know if I'm in the mood to read this right now. It's very good, but I don't know if I'm in the mood to read this now. So, once again, I found myself having to decide what to read next, even though this was my third attempt at picking a book to read. And so, usually for me, like I said, once I pick a book up to read, I read a sentence, that's it, that's the book I'm reading. But I just couldn't find myself wanting to go further than the first chapter on all these three books at the moment when I read them, even though they were all amazing first chapters. And at some point in the future, I definitely will read these books. Obviously, I bought them. But I thought to myself, and I said, I cannot do this to myself again. This is madness. Stop it, Jody. You cannot pick another book, read a chapter, and then move on to something else. You have to stick with something. So I said to myself, I am going to read one of these three books. I will read them for May. My May pick. So this is my May TBR, if you will, because technically I chose a book within this pile of books. And I said to myself, Jody, you are going to read one of these books. Okay? You're just going to be decisive for once in your life. For your May book of the month to read, you will be decisive on this thing. Indecisive about everything else in life, but you'll be decisive on what book to read next. And so I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it. And I'm just really feeling the mystery thriller. You know, The Housemaid really made me want to read more mystery thrillers, which is unusual for me because once I read a mystery thriller, I'm not going to want to read one next normally. But I really feel like I'm in the mood to read a book that's like, oh my gosh, did that just happen? Whoa, I didn't see that coming. Whoa, twists, turns, twists, turns. So here we are. And I think if you know books, and you know the books that I just talked about, you're probably not surprised. You probably already know what book I chose. And my book that I'm going to read in May is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I'm just really excited to read this. And like I said, I really liked the first chapter. I read it probably over a week ago, but it's still fresh in my mind what I read. So that's how you know how good of a book it is. It stays with you. But I'll probably reread it. But I'm very excited. And also, I'm talked about this book. This was a book that I did want to read in 2023. So I'm almost making that goal of reading this book. I have to read it now. But also, I found out way before I noticed this on the back of the book, but if you have one of the books, you'll notice how it says Rock, Paper, Scissors has been optioned for Netflix, to become, I believe it's going to become a television series, probably a limited television series, but who knows these days. But yeah, it's, I didn't even notice that. I'm always curious if books that are very talked about are going to be adapted, and surprise, surprise, this is getting an adaptation. I can't talk right now. But yeah, so I'm super excited to read this before the adaptation comes out. As far as when the adaptation comes out, I have no idea. I just know it's supposed to happen. So I'm ahead of the curve. I'm going to read the book first, way ahead of time, which is unlike me. Usually I read something right before it happens or after the adaptation comes out. But yeah, that's what I chose to read in May, as I already showed you. But yeah, that's that. I zoned out for a second. But yeah, have you read any of these books? And, let me know your thoughts in the comments. No spoilers, obviously. Just if you liked it or whatever. But, yeah, I can't talk again. I'm zoning out. Yeah, so let me know in the comments what you're currently reading or what books you hope to read in May. So that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so very much for watching, and until next time, bye!